Hi, my name is Christopher Lewis, although in the online world you can call me Sufin. I work for Frozen District, where we have developed and published the House Flipper series, House Flipper 1 and 2, as well as published some other titles recently, including Cozy Rama, which is our new indie title. And yeah, I manage all of the content creation programs for Frozen District, including having created the content creator program itself. And we do a lot of things like tournaments throughout the year. Have any of you played House Flipper before? By a show of hands. So if any of you have seen the House Flipper tournaments that we have, a YouTube series with Germa985, for example, we do all that. I would like to say before I start, thank you very much for having me. I'm very grateful to the organizers, and it's a beautiful city, wonderful culture, great place to host an event like this. I'm very happy to be here. This talk is, if you already work in influencer marketing, a lot of what I'm going to say might seem like I'm totally stating the obvious, but this talk is primarily for those who might have an interest, or it might benefit you to engage somehow in influencer marketing, whether you might be a student or creating your own game from scratch or part of an indie dev team. This talk's for you. So, let's get started. The first question to ask is, why does influencer marketing really matter? Why is it important? And there are a few reasons, especially in video games, why it matters a great deal. Firstly, an influence of a content creator is giving you attention, reach, and engagement. And this last point of engagement is something that you don't get at all with traditional commercials or ads. There was also a Kantar report from this year that shows that influencer content is holding attention around 2.2 times longer than traditional content. If you watch adverts on YouTube, like me, you might just be waiting for the timer to go down before you can skip the ad, and you might not even be paying attention to it. Whereas, of course, if you have a content creator who you trust and you've followed for a long time, you will be more engaged and it will hold more of your attention when they are showing you some new content or a sponsored content in the form of an ad or gameplay. People also trust people more than logos and commercials. There was a tracker report from last year that showed that around 63% of consumers trust influencers more than traditional ads, which makes total sense. And this converts your visibility into interest, because you're showing it in a real, organic way to people who care about this content creator, and it's getting you a real audience, not just faceless or nameless consumers. About the real communities, when you work with influencers, it's really about the audience that they have. And this is especially true with micro or niche influencers. Even the smallest ones can be a great benefit if they are a good fit, and that's something that I'll be touching on many times throughout this talk. The resonance of this makes the reach valuable. If the audience are really resonating with your product, then this reach is far more valuable. It makes it productive rather than just having reach for the sake of it. You're having the right reach that resonates with the audience that you're looking for. And it levels the playing field. I like to use the example of, you might think that you're going against these huge developers that have these insane budgets nowadays. But actually, in a kind of David versus Goliath way, influencer marketing can level the playing field between you and them, in the same way that you can have a different relationship with a local baker or butcher than you would with a giant mega supermarket or something like this. It gives you this access that converts into real, genuine, organic interest through their audiences. And this can be much more personal and human approach that the bigger studios struggle with because they are so large. I think with this influencer marketing, especially in video games, can be sometimes misunderstood. And I would like to talk about some very common misconceptions that I hear even within the industry itself from other developers. That influencer marketing is only for big studios with big budgets and AAA titles and things like that. It's totally not the case. A good fit for your game will matter much, much more than view count alone. Micro creators can often outperform some of the largest ones. In terms of, imagine that you want to create a game and you simply go for a large creator that you think is popular. They might stream your game, they'll take your money, and it could well be the case that after that they never play or talk about your game ever again. But if you take some time, one of my biggest advice would be actually go on Twitch, go onto these platforms, create an account on Twitch for your dev studio, and actually spend time on the channels of the creators that you like and want to engage with. It might seem obvious, but I've spoken to many studios and people aren't doing that. And I get such positive feedback going on to Twitch from our official dev channel, saying hi, showing that we're interested. It gets such a good organic reaction from the streamer, from the audience. The chat is going wild, and you get these really pure organic moments that don't cost you anything at all, just your time. And in this way, you as an indie dev can appeal to niche audiences in a way that AAA just can't. They don't have the time like that to be spending going to these smaller creators. But in this way, you can build an organic community. I often always hear that creators are too expensive. There's some very interesting stats that have come out recently. I recommend very strongly a report that came out this year from an agency called Yours Truly. They have an influencer marketing report from 2025. 93, I think it's actually 92.7% of creators are not attached to any agency at all. Also, it's estimated, the number will be changing as we speak, but around 28% of all creators, only 28% of creators have ever received some kind of sponsorship, whether that even be a one-off. So the vast majority of creators out there haven't. And that stat, about 28%, is content creation in total. When we narrow it down to video games, it actually drops to about 10-15%. So when you talk about creators being so expensive and the budget being so high to get them to work with you, it is true. The prices out there for the top creators are, you can be spending thousands of dollars on one sponsored stream, for example. But if you think about the slice of the pie, you have only 8% are with agencies, so you have 93% of creators already willing to work for less because you don't have to calculate in agency fees, and 70 to 80% of them have never been sponsored at all before, and they probably don't have rates in mind, and the idea that you would be the first studio to approach them with an offer of sponsorship or interest will be a moment that they remember forever, like you're giving them the first start. For many of them, it can even feel like you having approached them with this interest affirms their life choice to become a streamer in the first place. So some creators are too expensive, but most are not. And of course, the quality matters much more than the quantity. You can spend thousands of dollars by getting many streamers to show your game, but if they're not the right fit, it really won't do anything for you. Another thing, we need an agency to talk to creators. I'm not anti-agency. Agencies can be very helpful, they can be very supportive, and they can give you things that you don't need. If you know that you're already making a top hit, if you're the new Divinity or a huge title like that, of course going to an agency makes sense, because you can't really miss. Any agency is probably going to do a good job and get you a lot of activations and conversions. But you don't need them. You can find contact details for streamers out there on the internet. It just takes time. And if you send out messaging or emails to creators, you will get replies most of the time. You will get genuine interest. But people seem to think that there's this invisible wall between a studio and a streamer that doesn't actually exist. Creating these direct relationships for yourself can have much, much better long-term results because you create real relationships. And that's something that I'll be coming back to shortly. And yeah, I kind of just skipped ahead there, but more creators is not necessarily better. Going for the good fit is always, always better. It's always what you should be aiming for, rather than simply saying, we want to pay 50 of the top creators to play our game. So what actually works? I've split it into 3 columns. Structure is more important than budget. You can get a lot done without spending anything at all. Important things would include, have a clear creator page. This is a mistake that I see very often with small indie devs, people starting out. You need to make working with you not work. You have to think about streamers. They are busy all the time, they have short attention spans, and they're playing games for a living. If working with you for them requires work, it requires them to go out into the world and find and discover you for themselves, very often they just simply won't do that. So very important to have that. Similarly then is keys. I would advise that, you have somewhere, you can use platforms like Lurkit or Keymailer or something like that, which won't cost you too much money, and have a platform out there where people can get your keys very easily, so they can play your game and make content. You can even take yourself out of this process if you use a third party. Provide assets early. I mean, I work with a 2D artist that would be wanting to throttle me for saying this because it's easier said than done. But the earlier you can get assets out for them to use, the real logos, the real banners, the B-roll of your game, the better. Again, with the same mentality, it's removing work from them. If they have to go and record their own footage, edit it, clip it, and all these things, it's just more work. So if you have things readily available, people will be more interested in working with you. And give them reasons to stay connected. If you're only going to email them once and never speak to them again, they will lose interest. But if you can provide them something of value, I would recommend that all your messaging gives them something, whether it be a key or early access or something like that. To have a reason to stay connected means they will stay connected with you. Relationships over transactions. Treat creators like people. Again, it might seem very obvious, but in the industry, I hear a lot from creators themselves that they are approached in a way like it's one formal business to another. Again, if you think empathetically about creators, these are people who have made a life choice to work from home, streaming and putting themselves out there into the world all day long. These are real people. Many of them will be dramatic or come with a whole list of problems and all sorts of real life emotional ways to connect with them. And this is important, like don't just treat them like a business, basically. Responding quickly in a human way is also really important. Although I would put an asterisk that you shouldn't expect them to reply quickly. You might end up having to ping or send many messages to a creator. But by responding quickly, you keep the interest alive. If you go away for a week and come back, likely they will have already moved on to something else. Understanding their content style is also really important. You want to show that when you approach a creator, you actually know who they are. Again, it might seem obvious, but if you are totally unaware of some niche humor of theirs or some in-jokes, you show that you don't actually know this creator. And again, it makes the approach seem transactional. But if you show them that you do understand their content and their content style, immediately you start off on a much stronger position. And support them even when they're not promoting you. This is another thing that happens very often, unfortunately, but they're not contracted to you only. So if even they are playing or streaming or get a deal with a game similar to yours, you need to still show them that support, that you care about them as an individual, not that you only care about them when they're doing what you want them to do. And your time is more valuable than your money. One of the best pieces of advice I can give on this talk is create your own databases. There are many platforms and tools out there where you can make a database, but if you only have your list of creators on a third-party platform, you're on the hook to them forever. If they ever go bankrupt or some changes in management that don't suit you or the prices suddenly go through the roof, you're now stuck. So time to get good on Google Sheets or something like that and make your own databases, and then you're safe, you future-proof yourself. The same, create your own networks. Again, when you use an agency, it can be a great shortcut, but what you're really doing is you're paying for the agency to have a better relationship with these content creators. If you want a real relationship with the content creators themselves, simply paying an agency won't do that. You're outsourcing it, so it's not coming back to you. And craft your own messaging. If you have very generic messaging around your points, people will feel that. Instinctively, you probably have emails in your inbox that are like, "Hi, name, I saw your great content," and this kind of thing. And this already creates a disconnect. So if you are going to work with an agency or a third party, insist that you craft your own messaging and make it personable. And this will then allow you to create your own one-on-one relationships, which changes the whole framework of how you can approach this. I can give a real-life example. I've had content creators who now we are on very friendly terms. If you work with somebody long-term and you have a good one-on-one relationship with them, when you approach them again, the whole feeling of this deal will be very different. It becomes very casual, it becomes very personable, and it becomes very easy to operate. And suddenly you can maneuver around a lot of these roadblocks and red tape that you might encounter the first time that you approach somebody. So when to spend? I've divided this column into time and money. Where to spend, or when to spend your time, and when to spend your money. So if you need guaranteed content at a specific time, if you suddenly have a new title that you want to develop or publish that's right around the corner, spending money here is good and does make sense. If the creator's audience fits your game perfectly, then also a good time to spend money, if you're sure that it's a perfect fit. If the right creator leads to many more, and I'd like to make some examples here. In the VTuber space, I've seen this be more true than in standard live streamers. If you create a very good relationship with one creator, it will roll and snowball into suddenly you're gathering interest from all other creators who might be friends or connected with them. And like I said, it seems to be the case that with VTubers, this is true maybe times 5, times 10. We've taken in so many VTubers who play our games, from the smallest to the biggest, and the word spreads through this community very fast. Again, if you've seen any of our House Flipper tournaments, one of the first early relationships we made was with Twitch veteran German985, who, when we do the tournament, he then brings in all of his streamer friends who are some of the biggest and most watched creators in the creator space, really. And that's all from making a good relationship with one creator. So if you find this, it's worth investing some money. If you want premium, high-quality, evergreen content, it's also worth investing your money, because you will have something forever. Whereas a Twitch stream, you need to be a little more careful, a little bit more planned, because, as you know, once the stream is finished, of course, it can be a VOD, but it's really gone. Whereas if you have a good premium quality YouTube video, you'll have it there forever. Or if you need a lot of short-form content quickly, this is becoming something more popular. TikTok marketing, YouTube Shorts. If you need a lot of these in a short space of time, deciding to have a budget of $0 and just messaging people, it won't work nearly as well. Or if you want to support a creator you already trust, because you shouldn't think in terms of, we've paid this creator once before, so next time we don't need to. If you have a good fit, somebody you worked before and you trust, also good to spend money. So perhaps more importantly, where to spend your time when you're finding your first creators. And as I said, really important to actually go onto these platforms. Twitch is the perfect example of this, because you can directly interact with them. This is a good way to spend your time. When you're building your community relationships with streamers and their audience, you can join the chat, joke around, become a viewer yourself for a moment. And there might be some bosses out there that are like, huh, you spent 6 hours watching Twitch today? What are you doing? But really, this is maybe a simple, free way to build organic community relationships. Or you're nurturing long-term ambassadors. Very similar point, but still relevant. If you want somebody to be associated with your game in the long term, this costs time more than money. When you're learning what type of content actually works, we make House Flipper, a building simulator game. So for us, cozy content or short-form content, very popular. But that might not be the case for your game. You need to find what type of content actually works, and then go from there. Or, I mentioned assets before, spend time preparing these assets. Make sure they're ready so that when your campaigns go live, people are not fumbling around, asking you a million questions, and they can't seem to find something for themselves. And when you're growing your internal creator list, again, like I said, database, really important, so that you keep your contacts and your lists in your own hands. So what to avoid? And these parts are much shorter, and I'd like, if I have time, to open up a short Q&A after. Treating creators like free ad space. This is not only harmful to your relationship with this creator, but if you can even build a reputation that you are totally transactional and you're treating them like a guaranteed free ad, this can even spread around the creator space and cause problems for you in the future. Only talking to creators when you need something. This is something that I see all the time. You can create a good relationship with these creators, but if it seems to be that you're only ever interested in them when you want something from them, this will come across and could harm your relationship too. Over-reliance on third-party platforms or agencies. As I said before, great to use them. There's nothing wrong with using them. But if you are totally reliant on them, all of your soft power, you're actually putting in the hands of the agency and not yourself. And focusing on size instead of fit. This might seem obvious. If you wanted to sell industrial farming equipment and you paid the Kardashians to do a TikTok, you might not find that the audience are going out there in droves to buy this equipment, so it doesn't work the same way. What to take home from this talk? If I can sum it up to 3 main points. Build real relationships, not transactions. Spend time getting to know the creators you want to work with, getting to know their audiences, and being out there and interacting with them. It will mean that your Discord never stops going off. It will mean that you're inundated with things to remember, but it's important. Create and maintain your own internal databases so you stay self-sufficient. And remember that fit beats size. Choose the right ones, not the biggest ones. So yeah, that's everything from me. I have run out of time. Is there time for a couple questions? So if anybody has any questions for me, I'd love to take them. And thank you very much for your time. And again, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.